Hey everybody, and welcome to my second review of the Star Wars series. Now, unlike last time, I'm not going to open up with the two lightsabers like I would normally want to, because, honestly, I want to talk about this movie as quickly as possible, so let's get into it. So, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is set approximately 10 years after the events in Phantom Menace, and the galaxy is on the brink of a civil war. Led by the former Jedi named Count Dooku, thousands of planetary systems threaten to secede from the Galactic Republic. After Senator Padme Amidala evades assassination, the Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker becomes her protector, while his mentor Obi-Wan Kenobi actually goes out to investigate the attempt on Padme's life. Soon, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan witness the onset of a new threat to the galaxy, which is the Clone Wars. So the punch in the stomach that we got with this movie was lessened because we already had to suffer through the Phantom Menace, and I, for one, did not have high expectations, if any at all. But, of course, I'm sure that there were thousands, if not millions, of fans who had at least a shred of hope that this would be a return to what Star Wars used to be. Of course, this film was pretty much the green screen and blue screen travesty that we expected that it would be, that its predecessor was. And if the amount of CGI in this film didn't piss me off enough, all the clones in this film are completely CGI. There are no stand-ins. All they did was take one person's face and plug them into a bunch of lifeless, computer-generated characters. The one problem that I have with The Phantom Menace as well as Attack of the Clones is that it's Lucas's choices for Anakin. I mean, Jake Lloyd was terrible as a young Anakin Skywalker, and I didn't think it was going to get any worse, but we got Hayden Christensen as a more mature Anakin. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. And instead of focusing on the darker side of Anakin, Lucas decides to focus on... I know he didn't probably mean to, but he focused on how much of a little bitch Anakin is. Now, they do explore his slow fall just a little bit when he slaughters an entire village of sand people after his mother dies. And honestly, I think it's the best scene in the entire movie, because... in my opinion, as far as dialogue, just from what I'm seeing, Hayden Christensen is terrible, but he is actually able to manifest something out of his facial expressions. He was actually able to express Anakin's anger at his mother's death just through his facial expressions, and that part I actually enjoy. However, they cut it way too quickly. And I think that was because they wanted to keep their PG rating, which I think is stupid. So Natalie Portman as Padme is the exact same in this film. I'm not even going to say anything else. It's just wooden, monotone, nothing new to add. So what Anakin and Padme are doing during the majority of this film is pretty much a romantic story that was poorly executed in the most ingenious way. Seriously, this seems way too serious to have not been on purpose. Now, before we start talking about what Obi-Wan was doing in this entire film, let's talk about Ewan McGregor, and I'm actually kind of happy to talk about this. In this film, he actually gets a chance to shine as Kenobi, and you start to see less of the inexperienced younger Jedi that Obi-Wan was when he fought Maul. You finally start to see a bit of Alec Guinness Obi-Wan from the original trilogy, a little bit mixed in there. And when I imagine a younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, McGregor's portrayal of him is perfect. He infused a depth of character that absolutely shone through his performances, including like vocal inflection, body language, all derived from Sir Alec, and yet uniquely his own. Every time he's on screen, he stands out for me And still, sure, he still gets the shit dialogue that everybody else gets from time to time, and his character does things that makes no sense somehow. But you know what? He performed the role so well that I could look past it and actually even believe the things he said and did. Now, during the film, Obi-Wan is investigating the assassination attempts against Padme. This ends up somehow leading him to an unknown planet that houses a clone army that is, quote, made for the Republic, which nobody questions why they exist or even think that it's suspicious. They just accept it and move on. And just the way that he actually found it was... it was so convoluted. He found a little piece of weapon, he took it to a guy in a diner, asked him about that, he talked about where the planet was, he looked up the planet, it didn't exist, and then a child had to tell him that the planet was erased from the archive memory. What kind of child thinks up this shit? And while we're on the subject of the clones, why is the title Attack of the Clones? When they don't actually, well, attack until barely, like, 20 minutes before the films end. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit, I tell you. And, you know, they should have just come up with a better title. And honestly, I can't think of one because I don't know what a romance story in the Star Wars universe would be titled. Now, the main villain of this film is the former Jedi Master turned Sith Lord Count Dooku, otherwise known as Darth Tyrannus. And he's played by Sir Christopher Lee. Now, Christopher Lee, I love him in everything that he's done. My notable favorites for him were when he played Dracula, and when he played Saruman in Lord of the Rings. But, just... meeting Dooku should have been a very dark, maybe even scary experience, but instead we get this kind, older gentleman sitting around talking about politics, and even when he showed his true colors as a Sith Lord, he's not even intimidating. And this is a small nitpick about the character, but if you pay attention during the climactic battle at the very end, you can tell that's not Christopher Lee fighting. It's painfully obvious that it's a stunt double. To me, it doesn't even look like him. I don't know, go back and watch it if you feel like. Or not, I don't care. Samuel L. Jackson reprises his role from Phantom Menace as the Jedi Master Mace Windu, and I'm talking about him now because he gets a little bit more screen time in this film, whereas the original one, he only got maybe 2 scenes, total of 5 minutes, but he's definitely more prominent in this film, especially during some of the battle scenes. I don't know why I was stuttering on that part, but Jackson is one of the most renowned African-American actors to ever live, and for good reason. He has given some of the most charismatic and powerful performances in the past 30 years, and yet in this film he still comes across as everybody else, wooden and monotone. His lines don't even stick out like, no, I am your father, or I have a bad feeling about this. His character largely exists for the purpose of exposition, and his dialogue could have been said by any of the other gray and underwritten members of the council. Now, onto the film itself. You would think, especially since this is the middle film in the trilogy, you'd expect that we'd get a film that was more darker in tone, that maybe explored the beginnings of Anakin's fall to the dark side. But no, it's a fucking romance story! And could there be less chemistry between these two lovebirds? Also, just to segue again, and also to repeat something that I said earlier, it's hardly about the clones. So in the film, there are a lot of things that make no sense about the plot at all. So, for instance, whenever Padme's assassin is actually trying to, well, I guess you could say assassinate her, they don't try an easy or guaranteed way to kill her. They use something that's pretty much guaranteed not to work, especially since there's Jedi nearby. The worst aspect of this film that makes me pissed off, as well as others who are not even Star Wars fans. Star Wars fans will hate this too, but even movie fans, or people who just want to go to a movie theater, will absolutely hate, is the dialogue. If you thought it couldn't get any worse after Phantom Menace... Now, like I said in my Phantom Menace review, it doesn't have any memorable lines, but compared to Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones does have memorable lines. They're just not memorable in the right ways. And... oh god, I didn't want to do this. I'll do a couple examples. I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here, though. Here, everything's so soft and smooth. I killed them. I killed them all. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them. Now, whenever I watch this film, there's always this one part that I feel is a good and bad quality, and the only reason I say that is because it's all meshed together. I'll start with the good thing first. So, one of the things that I believe this film does perfectly, as with all Star Wars movies, is the sound editing and sound mixing. And there's this scene that takes place in an asteroid field, and one of the main characters is being bombed by seismic charges. The sound that the bombs make when they detonate are beautiful and terrifying in their own way. Oh, I knocked the camera over. Ugh. Of course, the bad thing with this exact same scene is how easily one of the main characters is actually able to navigate through the asteroid field, because in Empire Strikes Back, C-3PO comments on how hard, or, you know, the chances of actually surviving while flying through an asteroid field, or navigating it, actually, he says. And while Han Solo is actually able to get through, you could still feel from the overall emotion of the scene and everything that's going on in that scene while Han is trying to navigate, you can tell that he's only able to actually navigate through because he's very skillful. Whereas in Attack of the Clones, there is no worry that the character will perish, and that's because the navigation looks easy, and personally, I don't like it. So if you're a Star Wars fan, whether you're casual, like most of my friends, or hardcore like me, it's very likely that you came to see a lightsaber fight of the ages, because the new ones focus more on choreography, and the one from Phantom Menace, even though there was not really much to it, it at least looked pretty. I'm sorry to say that we actually got the worst lightsaber fight in the history of Star Wars films in Attack of the Clones. And if you remember from my Phantom Menace review, you'll know that even though the characters that were battling there was no emotional conflict between them, the lightsaber battle still made up for it with the choreography and Darth Maul. But instead, we get these strange shots of everyone twirling their lightsabers above their heads, and certain shots where it looked like a fucking amateur art film. And then at the end, Yoda shows up at the scene, and he starts fighting Count Dooku. And I remember everybody in the actual theater just loving that battle because it was just so cool. All I saw was a Muppet bouncing around off of shit. It looked really stupid, and plus, I don't understand how he's walking around with a cane like he's weak, and then all of a sudden he's bouncing off of walls and just doing weird twirls and shit. So, in the behind the scenes of this film, which I actually love watching the behind the scenes of the prequels, I actually think they're the best behind the scenes that we've ever gotten, but in there, if I remember correctly, it actually shows the stunt double of Christopher Lee. Not even, I guess in certain films, whenever you're fighting with a CGI character, they'll actually have somebody who's in like a green screen sort of garb, and then they'll have like some kind of stick that they battle with them just to show like a basis of where it's supposed to go. No, he's just twirling in the fucking air, and then later they add in Yoda to make it look like he's doing shit. It's fucking stupid! I'm done talking about this scene. To recap, this is the fucking worst Star Wars movie ever made, and I hope that nothing else even goes lower or even close to this. And This was the movie that almost destroyed my love for this franchise. I didn't even want to rewatch this film, but I wanted to give you guys a true review, so please thank me in the comments, because I did not want to do this again. Sure, we got less Jar Jar in this film, but to be fair, he didn't have a use in the last film. Not really. In this one, he actually has a use, which honestly, if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan like me, makes you hate him just a little bit more. And we don't have Jake Lloyd anymore, but he was replaced with somebody just as horrible in the film. Or role. Why did I say film? And sure, we don't have Jake Lloyd anymore, which, you know, playing his little orphan Annie, but he's replaced by somebody just as horrible in the role. I mean,
that was so wizard, Brian.
At least in Phantom Menace, we didn't have to suffer through this appalling and supposed romantic dialogue and just poorly executed character arcs that turn into love? Love? Love. It's not love! If anything, it was Anakin just doing some kind of dark and twisted Jedi mind trick on her to coerce her into loving him. And he probably did that just to get her to shut up about her being a senator. I can't, Annie. I'm a senator. Privileged white bitch. Visual effects are still unacceptable. They're a little bit better than the Phantom Menace, but they're still completely horrible, and to this day are dated as fuck. And the characters are still horribly written. If anything, some of the characters got worse, i.e. Anakin. And the one saving grace, in my opinion, is the sound design. As I said earlier, this is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. And in my opinion, this is one of the worst films ever made, and I don't know why Wikipedia does not have this included in their page of films considered to be the worst. Sure, they have the obvious ones like Superman 4. I don't know what the subtitle is called. I really don't.
Then don't use it if you don't know what the title is.
I'm still gonna use it. It's Superman 4. Birdemic and Troll 2. Obviously those are on there, but why isn't this movie? Ugh. And I'm ashamed to say that every time I have a Star Wars movie marathon, I'm still gonna watch this movie.
Star Wars is like having a wife. Sometimes you just gotta embrace all some of the stupidity that's in this entire body.
Thank you.
That was poorly worded.
Just go. I don't care. I think they get the gist. Just go. Just go. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed watching me rant. Honestly, after I'm done with this film, I'm gonna go lie down. I think I just had an aneurysm. Anyway.
Hey, wives do that too, you know?
What?
Wives can give out aneurysms too. That only just furthers my theory more. That this is just your bad wife.
I don't understand what she's saying. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel for more
for more music.
Please subscribe to the channel. Shut up! Please subscribe for more movie reviews and help to support the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Already subscribed?
Will you stop?